So I have managed to pull myself together today after a trigger that happened yesterday at the store, where I was behind a man and his two sons in line, and they had a cart with clothes in it, and the father of these two teenage sons insisted that they count up everything in the cart to get to a dollar amount. And they said they had already done it, but he made them do it again in front of everyone and holding up the line. And he proceeded to chuckle at them and kind of yank things out of their hand and then give it back to them and taunt them. At which point I removed myself from the line because I knew I was getting triggered, and wandered around the store where I could kind of still observe what was going on. And once they were done, he said, come on, girls, let's go. And they kind of stumbled off, and I noticed their shoelaces were untied, and they had their heads down, and one of them looked up, and I tried to make eye contact with him and tried to smile at him. And he had a very far away and just kind of a crushed look in his eyes. And the other just kept his head down. And the father said, come on, we got to bust a cat, you know. So they walked off. And I realized that my perception of that was based on my own personal history. And that's why I made a video response to Kenneth Katona that I did, because in my personal history, both of my brothers committed suicide. And I know that it was because, in large part, of my father's treatment of them. And they were in their late 30s, early 40s. And, you know, I watched them try to make it in the world with this malignant force that was my father in their life. And I was looking at these two teenage boys yesterday and thinking, you know, are they going to grow up to have these difficulties, and will they try valiantly to make it in the world and not be able to, and end up committing suicide? So that's the kind of stuff that I'm dealing with, and my activities at YouTube I'm trying to use to facilitate thought about those past histories that I have, so that I can get a rational hold on them. And that's why I wanted to discuss in my response video to Kenneth the difference between causes of mental illness and responses, emotional responses that are characteristics of mental illness, so that people are not blamed for having a mental illness and not just told to suck it up and get over it. Not at all what Kenneth was doing. That's not what I'm implying. It's just my way of trying to get a handle on all of the impact that this has had on my life, is to start categorizing and sorting through all of this stuff rationally. And part of that would be about you know, the causes and how much a person is impacted by their environment versus maybe a genetic predisposition to having a mental illness. And interestingly, that trigger yesterday illuminated not just the issues of my past with my brothers, but with my difficulties with discussing gender politics in general. And I've said before that on the topic, my faculties get very aggravated, and I'm not very effective at discussing it. And I think that's because of my having witnessed firsthand the impact of a father on his sons, the magnitude of it. I just don't buy into the anti-feminist and misandrist narrative. And these things that I see the people like the MRAs concerned about, I see in my personal experience as being more related to relationships between men and relationships also between society, which is run by men and men. That's maybe for another discussion, but definitely I see the relationship between fathers and sons and men relationship between men as much more of the issue for men's issues than women's treatment of men and relationships men have with women. So it's interesting that I was able to recognize that that trigger could be used to shine light on many different areas and fit it into what I'm doing here at YouTube. And so that's why I kind of wanted to make a video, because I thought that would be appropriate to share that information. So I did the response to Kenneth as kind of the mental exercise that I'm working on, and this is an explanation of why and how it fits into what I'm doing here. So that's that.